Okay, now we are at 10:41, which means in another 17 to 18 minutes we are going to be heading into the interim budget. I'm actually surprised because I'm surprised, PK, because I've never seen this kind of build up to an interim budget before. It was taken as a fait accompli, but I think this is different. Something's very different this time. Is it the moment? Is it the election? Or just hype? Because, you know, it could all end up, being a bit of an anticlimax.
घटना चाहिए, इम्पोर्ट घटना चाहिए, उसके लिए लोग अलग-अलग जो है नारे भी देते हैं, बायकॉट के लिए भी कहते हैं, लेकिन हम देखते हैं कि प्रधानमंत्री
Go on, please. Can I have PK's audio, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think an interim budget is an opportunity to provide the vision for the next 5 to 10 years. And I think that'll be the focus, really providing a vision. So I think if you go back to the 2019 interim budget presented by Piyush Goyal, who was standing in for the ailing Arun Jaitley, one of the things that was focused on in that one was introducing a pension scheme for the informal sector, improving, basically providing a roadmap for labor market reform, I think was really one of the sort of quiet highlights of that budget speech. So I think we'll see much more of a vision for the economy of the next 5-10 years, perhaps the entire 25-year period or 23-year period now until 2047. So that'll probably be the focus, but I think in terms of the headroom, the government really has a tremendous amount of headroom to give more to the people, and I think one of the focus areas could well be a reduction in excise duties on petroleum products.
That's a long
which is very easy. It's easy to do because GST is so strong. GST revenue in the year to date is up about 11%. But more importantly, direct tax revenue is up more than 20% year on year. Personal and corporate taxes are booming. And so that gives headroom. I mean, that just provides a lot of room for maneuver. And in the year ahead, or perhaps even in the 2 months ahead, there's going to be a lot of scope for additional spending because there is so much room. I mean, for the first 9 months, the fiscal deficit is only 55% of the target. And I point out that pre-COVID, so if you look at FY19, for instance, in the period until December, the fiscal deficit was already 112% of the full year target, because the final quarter is the strongest quarter for revenue. January to March, especially March, is the strongest month for tax revenue. That is still to come, and yet already in the first 9 months, the deficit is so much lower than target. So there's a huge amount of room to provide additional tax cuts or rebates, as well as to boost spending even more. And particularly, I think capex spending will continue to grow very strongly in the period ahead and help to crowd in private investment.
Absolutely. I have Ashok Sehgal with us. He's co-chairman of the CI National MSME Council. Mr. Sehgal, good morning. We're taking quick expectation.
Good morning to you.
Reactions from everyone before the interim budget presentation. What are yours, sir?
Well, from the MSME point of view, the last budget was very good for us, and the government had made a lot of allocations of funds. We hope that this interim budget will continue that trend. In the last few weeks, we've been hearing a lot of comments from the government, including the finance ministry, on the need to continue to support MSMEs and the need to make sure that MSMEs, particularly the micro and small sector, is fully supported. So we are expecting that the government will take concrete steps. One of the steps we are requesting is that the payments cycle, which always hurts MSMEs, should be accelerated by making available funds to the government, which in the final run is one of the major buyers of goods and services in the country. MSMEs may not directly participate in some of the large tenders, but they're part of the supply chain. So whether they're to be directly paid by the government or the intermediaries, who may be the large corporates, are paid on time, it enables them in turn to pay their supply chain of MSMEs on a timely basis. So we really hope that the payment problems of MSMEs can be made easier by the government releasing funds on its various projects, and going forward continuing to to allocate funds for new projects and expansion of various government enterprises, so that once again there can be a trickle-down effect of that to the MSMEs.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Sehgal, thank you very much for that. I want to mention the upsides that we have. Kishore, yes, of course, I see you come in, but I just want to mention here, whenever you do any economic planning in the future, you plan for the likely upside in the next 2 or 3 years, including the guaranteed upsides that we have. Now, there has been thinking in this country, Abhishek, on digitalization, bank reforms, heavy PSU expenses, right? Maximizing your revenue, strong fiscal discipline, but a huge amount of state welfareism, and getting the private participation into the state welfareism policies as well, and then tweaking your foreign policy to help your business. So a lot of fundamentals right. Going forward, I expect the government to go big bang on things like the India-UK FTA, to build on the advantages of the economic corridor which were affected by the problems around the Red Sea area, more capex investment, but also I think Narendra Modi's government in 3.0 mode would want to make India more tax compliant. Tax compliant. So there is a lot of upside economically. I mean, the next 2 years, there's a lot of upside. A lot of the work that has been done in 10 years will really show dividends and show results in the next 2 or 3 years.
Specifically on tax compliance, the fact that when the Modi government came in, there were just about 2 crore plus taxpayers in the country, the individual taxpayers. The number stands at over 8 crores now, quadrupled. Also, the point that Piruz Kambata was making, and he had a tic-tac with Suhail. You see, the fact of the matter is that again, when the Modi government came in, the average corporate tax was about 33%, stands at 25% now, most of it. Personal income tax, which stood at average of about 18 or 19% for income less than 15 lakh rupees. It stands at about 10%, 11% now. So obviously, it's a work in progress. Some people would get restless and say they want more of it, double quick time. But then, things take their own time in terms of get things in order. Also keep in mind that revenue has to be there. If, for example, the government, the way it dealt with the pandemic period, taking all the burden on itself, does all the heavy lifting, at the same time does not crowd out private investment. So obviously that kind of lateral freedom, that kind of scope has to be there. And within that framework, the fact that in the last 30 months on the trot, the Purchasing Managers Index of Manufacturing has been above 50 and been increasing. On the trot for the last 30 months, the Purchasing Managers Index for the services sector has been above 50 and increasing. Really shows the kind of pink of health the economy has been, revenues looking good, and the finance minister, of course, wherever possible, keeping in mind the state welfareism by way of capital expenditure, at the same time, keeping that door completely open so far as private investment and private participation is concerned. The beautiful example of which is the defense sector, for example, where when the Modi government came in, India's defense exports were a paltry about $200 million, stand about $2 billion plus now.
Yeah, Arnab, I want to add one more point which none of us have yet spoken, is that, see, the whole objective of any government when it comes to fiscal prudence or improving the economy is the per capita income. I don't know whether you've been following that recently, one more cynical person, Raghuram Rajan, has been saying that India's per capita income by 2047, even if we grow at a nominal 6%, is going to be subpar what today China is at about $12,000. But I think he's got it completely wrong, because if you look at the historical data of the per capita income increase for Indians, there have been years where it has gone up by 17, 18, 20%, and there have been suboptimal returns. But you should understand that China is starting at a base of 12,000 now, while we are at 2,380. So the gap is going to remain even after 20-25 years. But at the rate at which we are going to go in terms of increment in per capita income, that's going to be very critical, because that is the key measure And how many people come up in the middle class, upper middle class, and from the lower class, and that is going to be high. I always kept saying, I tweeted also, that we have moved on from an era of Raghuram Bharose to Shriram Bharose.